Welcome. Good to see you. Hi, Alan and Candace and Anna. Good morning. Um, uh, I'm looking forward to today's Dharma talk and sit, and yeah, we're going to talk about the 7 factors of awakening, um, as exemplified by Dipa Ma, a Buddhist master, and I shared a little bit about her in the email that I sent that went out about today's sit. So yeah, let's just take a moment before I dive into the talk. We'll just arrive and maybe closing the eyes and just taking some moments to make contact with yourself. How you're feeling, what your energy is like, and just letting any doors close between where you are and where you think you should be. I'll be right back. I'm going to go as you're doing that. And then you can put into the chat, yeah, what you're noticing about your experience and your intention. And I'm going to put this little girl in her room. Fifi. Well, first let's show Fifi. Here she is. Say hi. Hi. She a big girl. Look at that face. Oh, she's love. She's a love. Say hi to everyone. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm going to go put her in the room. Oh, Fifi, go. I can't play. All right. Hi, Ruth. Okay, feeling purposeful and energetic this morning. Alan, awesome. I love feeling like that.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ruth. So go ahead and just pop in the chat where you're at and your intention for today. What it is that you're most wanting to feel or receive from our time together. I hope so. Hopefully, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read my email that I sent out as an introduction to today's Dharma talk and meditation, but I told a story about my meeting with Dipa Ma. She's not alive anymore. She died in 1989. Oh gosh, I don't know how old she was. But gosh, I can't, I'm gonna just explore her story with you. One, a big part of this is I haven't really experienced a lot of women, spiritual teachers who embody the wisdom and the compassion. It's not that they didn't exist or they haven't existed, but they're not as easy to recollect in our collective consciousness, right? For reasons I don't need to unpack right now. But in order to shift that, I love exploring the lives of women who have devoted themselves, hi Marilyn, to this path. And Dipa Ma, I was sharing that I met her in 2017 when I went to Spirit Rock. And it was more just this presence, loving presence. And then I went to the bookstore and I saw the book and it said Dipa Ma, and I saw her picture, and I was like, wow, I wonder if she was with me during this moment when I was grieving over the loss of some folks in my life who have passed. And then, recently, sometimes I'll just say, like, what should I do? Or I ask for her advice, her wisdom, and she comes through. I don't know if it's really her or not. I don't really care, but extraordinary human. So let me give you the skinny on her life. And then we'll talk about the 7 factors of awakening. For Dipa Ma, the path was about awakening. Like, she really, and I feel the same way, that the awakening kind of takes care of a lot. When we wake up, when we awaken to our inherent okayness and enoughness, then we tend to do things that are of benefit, not of harm. We just tend to live a more wholesome, skillful, and happy life. And so her encouragement to her students was always to wake up, which was really something unusual for a woman at that time, because it was believed that women couldn't attain enlightenment. When she was young, like, child, she was remembered for her studiousness. She loved to study. She loved to build like little Buddhist shrines. She liked being alone. She she didn't really care much for food. She would often forget to eat, and her parents would worry about her, and she said, she's like, what is hunger? I don't know what that is. So she was a frail, often sickly for the first kind of part of her life. Had a good relationship with her folks. She recalled them when she was alive very fondly. And such was the tradition at that time. In India, she was married she was married to someone she'd never met when she was 12. And that's how folks rolled. So she didn't like leaving her parents' house because she really loved, living with them, but that was just the way. And so she went and lived with her in-laws for 2 years. She lived with them. And while her husband, oh gosh, I should know, I meant to grab his name. I will in a moment. While her husband was working, right, establishing his livelihood and their life together. And then, once she had her menses and she was able to conceive children, she was 14, she was sent off to live with her husband. So for 2 years, it was her job to really take care of the in-laws. And then she went off can you imagine being 12? I mean, my daughter's 13. I can't imagine, but that was, that was just the way it was then. And imagine, she comes to live with her husband and no one's told her about sex. I mean, they've told her about householding, but no one's talked to her about sex. Her husband tells her about sex and she's horrified. She's horrified, I mean, and he was a very patient, loving man, and just was so patient with her. And let me see here. Thank you, Alan. Rajani. She says Rajani was her first teacher. So he was very patient, very loving. They ended up falling in love, and she couldn't have kids, at least in the beginning. And Rajani's parents wanted him to divorce her so he could be with someone who could have babies. They even enticed him away from the home under the false story that someone was sick. And once he got there, they tried to, they had someone already set up for him to marry. And he said, no, I nanny, Dipa Ma was her name after her child was born, who was called Dipa. So she did have babies, but this was before that. So no, she, he said she never signed up for this. She never signed up for someone to just leave her. I won't do that, and he didn't. And yeah, it just brings tears to my eyes because they have such a from the story of it, her telling of it, they had a wonderful partnership and relationship, and he really supported her practice. So they were Buddhist supporters and practitioners. They didn't practice meditation. It wasn't lay people didn't practice meditation. Monastics did, and men were the ones that were taught meditation because it was believed that, as I said earlier, they could achieve enlightenment. And so her Dipa Ma and her husband, they were made a lot of offerings to the monks and supported the practice of the Buddhist community in their village, and everything. And then she got pregnant, just got pregnant, like no one, and there she got pregnant, and she lost the baby at birth. You can imagine. I don't know. I can't because that hasn't happened to me. I can imagine a little bit though, because I have kids, and anyway, so the baby died at birth. She had another baby. She got pregnant again, and this time carried it to term, had a healthy baby girl. They named her Dipa, and now Nani is Dipa Ma, Deepa's mama, Deepa's mom. And then she has another child, a boy. She's pregnant with a boy, which is like, wow, they hit gold, right? And she lost the baby. She was so she was so brokenhearted, and her blood pressure, her health was like not so hot. And her blood pressure was through the roof. She really couldn't get out of bed. And she wanted to die, but, she was in bed. And then her husband, not long after, died of heart trouble. I mean, I'm talking like quick, like it was like a few months, I believe, after their son died that he died. So just setting the stage here for the amount of suffering that this woman went through and endured. And at that point, she wanted to die. And her daughter was luckily, they have such the family system is so supportive there that Dipa was taken care of by family members because Dipa Ma couldn't take care of her. So one night she was praying to the Buddha, and she just needed some help, and she had a dream. The Buddha came to her in a dream, and she knew that, through the dream, she woke up crystal clear that she needed to go find a teacher and learn meditation practice. That meditation practice was what was the only hope she had. So she got busy looking for someone who would train her, and in her culture, there are like levels of enlightenment and attainment that are talked about. Not her culture, but that particular, the Theravadan tradition. And so Vipassana. And so she found Munindra, who ended up being a teacher to some teachers here in the West. And she told him she can do anything a man can do. And he really, felt that from her. And so he took her on, and she started taking on practice with a zeal. Probably because she was in so much fucking pain, like what else? What's she gonna do, But and very quickly, the story goes and reports accounts. There's a book called Dipa Ma that I meant to have on hand with me here, but the accounts of her process of awakening, hence the 7 factors of awakening. She quickly transformed. through a series of long-term retreats. So she did like a 5-day retreat. She did like several retreats with Munindra where she was, and she like blood pressure fixed itself, like her health turned around, and she came back to her family and they were like, "What are you doing?" Like, wow, like whatever you're doing, it's working, because she had a joy to her that she hadn't had. And I mean, she was awakened, she had come back awakened. And so she just started teaching people meditation, starting with her sister, her daughter, her family. And I tell the story, it's really funny, so I'm going to tell it again. And the women that, householders would come and see her. And uh, householders would come and see her and like want to learn meditation practice. So her little apartment became like constantly open to people who were coming through, mostly a lot of women coming through to like learn this practice. As they started practicing stuff that they used to care about, they maybe didn't so much care about, like her sister, who really like went deep into the practice too. I mean, there were several women in her family that attained enlightenment or attained stages of awakening, which is such a cool, like, I'm like, this is like, what a family. But her sister didn't really care so much anymore about doing housework, like cleaning the house. And so she just stopped doing it. I can't imagine in that culture at that time. I mean, that's so rad, like radical. And her husband was upset, her husband was upset, her sister's husband, and complaining, and went to Munindra and was like, what's going on here? And Munindra suggested that he start meditating too, so he did. And then pretty soon he didn't care either. It's such a, it's so good, right? I mean, so that was how she lived her life. She taught meditation to householders in a place where women just were not, I mean, that just wasn't what they did, but they did. And word caught on that she was a teacher who would get results, in air quotes. And so more and more students came flocking to her. And then Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, Joseph Goldstein, those three primary Western teachers. If you go to Spirit Rock, you'll see they have a little place. Hi, Marlene. They have a place for remembrance and also like paying homage to teachers. Some that are still alive, some that have passed, but she's in there. And the old timers that studied with her. And all accounts of her, the folks who knew her, was like love. Like she was the person, Sharon Salzberg said, she was the first person, and I don't know how she'd say it now, that she felt really loved by. And so, when she did pass, her death was sudden, not sudden, but it was quick, and it was she knew she was passing, and she put her hands in like prayer mudra and died. That was, and she was this little woman, very small, short, and very simple. Didn't really care for fancy things, and she really she was love. She loved and she was love. That was like all from all accounts that I've read, people's experience her across the board was of that. Very wholesome, very warm. She was fierce, man. I read some of her instructions to some of her students, and I think, I don't know, I don't know if I could take that on, but she emphasized meditation above everything else, and really wanted you to sit, like 2 hours a day, an hour in the morning and an hour at night, and she wouldn't hear about no one having time to do it. So Dipa Ma, a little bit about this incredible Buddhist master and her life, and just, yeah, let's talk about the 7 factors of awakening. So the seven factors of they're pretty ordinary. I know it sounds kind of like when I heard this, it sounded far removed from me. Until I'm like, oh, okay. And just knowing these factors can help us, I think, have more confidence in the fruits of our own practice because we're starting to acknowledge maybe things that we had overlooked because we're looking for maybe something um, bigger. This path is not a dukaless path. Of course, it's like so much of the path is around how we relate and but we don't there's no promise of a place where where perfection exists. And so these factors are pretty ordinary, and I think though it's poignant in its ordinariness, um, and how it points us to the ways in which we just overlook uh, what's ours and what's here for us. The true blessings of our life we overlook because we're just buying into some idea that there's another place, as Kabir says, that will make the soul less thirsty. There's another place where I'm more peaceful. There's another place where I'm my highest self. There's another place where where I should be that I'm not already, and that, in a nutshell, is the leading, like the place where we suffer the most. And so may the seven factors of awakening and you learning about them open you to the blessings that are already your life. Because life is short. I mean, it's impermanent. Something we can count on is time passing and change. And yeah. So inner wealth is as a fruition of the seven factors of awakening. It's really cultivating what's already here, and they're developed forms of mental qualities that can be used regularly in the midst of everyday activities. A lot of what I drew from today's talk was both from the book called Dipa Ma and then also from Tricycle, which, I'm a member, whatever. It's not that expensive, but I really trust, and I have trusted them for a long time. I just trust them as a source of anything, Buddhist psychology related. So just want to mention that I got a lot of this from this point forward from Tricycle. So the first factor is mindfulness. Duh. Learning to be here, but more than that, like more specifically, learning to inhabit this body, mind, and moment fully, right? Because it's learning to inhabit, like even right now, we can just sense like there's like, remembering to inhabit this body fully, mind and moment fully. And then the next one has to do with something we've already talked about, anicca and anatta, impermanence and non-self. Living in the light of our understanding of change. So really grokking, having a deep understanding of the nature of impermanence, which, is an essential aspect of waking up. There's insubstantiality or conditionality. And our understanding of this helps us understand what leads to distress and what leads to the end of distress, right? Which we've talked about in the Four Noble Truths, right? The Eightfold Path includes inside of it impermanence and the understanding that things are impermanent. Trying to get fulfillment from things that are passing is just it's a setup. It's just a setup, and we need to know that. Seeing that clearly. Contentment or ease in our lives. This is a factor of awakening, being content. less and less due to causes and conditions being favorable, but a contentment that is conditionless. Another a way of thinking about contentment or feeling or the feeling is ease is another word that we might use to describe contentment's awesome. The yogis, I think it's santosha, yeah, contentment. Sometimes I'm like, my work isn't really like necessary. When I go really deep in it, like I know it is necessary because we're so programmed in our like to, deeply believe we're not enough as we are. But the truth is like content like, it's really more than enough and good enough. Like you don't need to be so focused on your self-improvement project. Right, contentment is actually a wholesome quality that's really like I'm not um, dissatisfied with my life as it is, and so I've got to change it, which is sort of most people who find me, they're there. It's just in some way, shape, or form. A lot of what I end up doing is like creating, or helping them be satisfied with what they already have, what we already have. Like Dipa Ma, she didn't have hardly any, like she had classes, her clothes, but she was very simple. And she felt like having too much stuff was, actually took her away from her practice, and it, encouraged people to live simply. Sense stars is another factor of awakening, which are just the 5 traditional sense stores. Included in the sense stores is the sense store of the mind. Okay, so that we have this thinking apparatus, right? Thoughts can be thought of as another sense. It is just another sense, but I mean, we're usually much more in touch with the thought than the taste, the thought than the smell, the thought than the feel. So a lot of practice is about more evenly distributing awareness into the other sense gates too, so that there's not one that's sort of like the bratty kid who's gotten way too much, given to them and is like running the show. That can be what it's like when we're run by our thinking mind. It's like we're run by a tyrant, a little who doesn't have wisdom, who just has these kind of base desires. Not so hot, but if we distribute awareness into the 5 sense stores, we become more mindful. It's in the service of sensitivity, respect, and care. So it's being mindful of the kind of footprint we're leaving upon the world in every moment, and the kind of footprint we leave in our own hearts. The kind of footprint we leave in our own hearts. We're leaving footprints on our own hearts. And the way we attend to our lives affects those footprints, right? Hence, it's said that people who, like, say, when you follow the Eightfold Path, you sleep good. You have a sense of there's a natural, you're just more able to relax in your life because you're attuned to your ethical conduct and the footprint you're leaving. And I liked this aspect of actually thinking about the footprints we leave on our own heart. The heart's stimulated so much in modern life. And that stimulation doesn't support peace. A peaceful heart is one that can really be cultivated, which is why on retreat there's like a taking away of stimulation, or even when so much stimulation, or even when we come together like this, given that you're really attending to the talk, you're not checking emails, you're not checking your phone, you're not sort of half here and half somewhere else, which is an interesting thing to notice about yourself. But if you're not doing that, again, we're creating conditions that are less stimulating to the heart, which can lead to peace. Skillful or wise attentiveness, not grasping at the sensory impressions or our associations with them. That's another factor. What we're paying attention to, not paying attention, say, to things that might be, sometimes it's like we have to turn our back. I have to turn my back on certain impulses. You know, sometimes like certain unwholesome actions and the root of them, yeah, like the root of them requires more of a firm hand. Like if we notice it's arising, like a certain craving is arising for something that will create a lot of harm. You know, an alcoholic is a good example of this. It's like, yeah, go have a drink, but that's gonna like, you know, maybe your spouse is gonna leave you now, or maybe this is gonna happen. So that's not wise attentiveness. That's grasping at the sensory impressions. It's grasping at pleasure, and it's grasping at temporary relief, and not looking at the bigger picture. I think one of the best ways for us to kick in wisdom when we're contemplating something that we're about to do, or kind of thinking about like, oh, should I do this or not, is to really take the long view. Okay, well, what if I keep doing this? What will this look like in 5 years? What will it look like in a year? And if we can see that it's leading to something that we don't want, then that can help us refrain from doing something that will give us short-term benefit but long-term problem. And then the last is trust and confidence in the capacity we have to be awake. I like this. I was going to start with this, but I'll end with it before we sit together. Trust and confidence in the capacity we have to be awake. Like, and then sensing that as a choice that we make. Because the more we look for proof of our enough-ness, the farther away we get from it. That's how doubt functions. Doubt functions in the simplest way to just take us out of our seat. So we start, you know, kind of, you know how that operates. Confidence, I associate confidence and trust with the willingness to stay here, right? And to notice the ways I get pulled off my center, but my commitment is to come back, right? So that's like trust and confidence and presence as a practice. It's not something that just comes over you. It's a practice. And to know the fruition of these qualities for ourselves, and to trust in our capacity to walk this path with courage, fearlessness, and trust. All right, let's sit together. Yeah, Rajani, thank you, Alan, for that. And then we have Ruth. I didn't read your intention. I need to find calm. I had a really severe nosebleed this morning. I read your email. Oh, good. I love it when that happens. Not that you had the severe nosebleed, but I'm glad you read my email. Want to feel a settling. Good. Yeah. So it is. May it be so. Yeah. Good. Well, I hope that this illuminated some things for you, the 7 factors of awakening, and also that Dipa Ma inspired you in some way. And, you know, I hope you learn more about her. Just, wow. I just adore her. And I think of her as a mentor of mine, even though I never met her, but I think of her as being, like I look up to her as a teacher, you know. Wow, what an amazing person and teacher. So let's just sit together. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable. At this juncture, I just like to mention that your donations make a big difference. Really appreciate those. And it should never be a reason that you don't come, but any amount really helps. And we will not have a sit next week. The last week of the month, we will be taking, we will not have a sit because it's my time to take care of myself. And then we'll resume. So not next week, not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. And that's going to be the rhythm, you know, that I've found for myself. The last week of the month, we won't sit, but then we'll resume the first week. The first week of March. It's not a fun straw. It's one of those paper ones. They work pretty good. All right. So just, yeah, finding your comfortable seat. Love the reminder of contentment. I will use that for my intention. Beautiful Marilyn. Yeah. Like right away, eyes are closed or open, but Vipassana meditation, insight meditation, which, we're practicing this morning, we want the back away from the chair. We want an alertness, and we want to inspire alertness, and non-activity, right? So take your sip of whatever you need to, and then just prepare to just sit. So we have this upright posture, and we marry this with a gentleness, a softness of heart. We're calling, that strong back and the soft front. And I'm going to ring the bell. We're going to spend the first several minutes of our practice together in silence, just to let the attention sort of gather and collect around your anchor. Your anchor might be your breath, but the breath doesn't work for some folks. It might be sound. So you might choose one of those anchors, and yeah. Mindfulness comes and goes just like everything else. So just letting this body at rest, letting it be something to come back to. You sense attention has gotten away from you. You're no longer in your body. The world of imagination starts to feel more real than right here, right now. Those are kind of markers of having gotten caught. We can just come back to the body of rest. Sensing this body of rest as being something to come back to. Noticing at this point, once awareness is gathered, we can notice if there are any of the hindrances present. You can notice if doubt is present, or if sleepiness is present, or if craving for sensual pleasure is present, or worry, restlessness. We can notice if those are present. And it's impersonal, remember, they arise without you. So just noticing if they're present without making it about you and adding some sort of evaluative thing on top of it. Like, we notice the hindrance without trying to get rid of it. If there are any hindrances noticed, we can just kind of investigate a little bit. What does that feel like in your body? How does your heart respond? Are you a friend to yourself or not? Anger is another one I didn't mention. And what happens when we bring awareness to this? Does it get bigger? Does it get smaller? Does it change? Does it relocate? There may be a point at which whatever is being noticed by your awareness isn't as interesting anymore, and then we can notice that too and come back to an anchor. Come back to this just resting in your body. So we'll practice with this for the next few minutes. And touch this lightly. You know, it's not like anything that you can get right or wrong. You can really trust however this is unfolding. Your practice is right, you're doing it right. Now you might imagine, maybe you just imagine, the essence of Dipa Ma standing behind you. Maybe not. I'm going to share some of her teachings, just her quotes with you. I'll just drop one in and then another. And you can just kind of sense how they land with you. Bless those around you. If you bless those around you, this will inspire you to be attentive in every moment. Don't think about these words, just like notice how they land. Let them come and let them go. The first thing is to love yourself. You cannot progress by self-doubt and self-hatred. You can only progress by self-love. Your heart knows everything. Human beings will never solve all their problems. Thoughts of the past and the future spoil your time. This problem you are facing is no problem at all. It is because you think this is mine or there is something for me to solve. Don't think in this way, and then there will be no trouble. Whatever beliefs you have, ask yourself, are you sure? Who says? Why not? Sometimes I experience some irritation, but my mind remains cool. Irritation comes and passes. My mind isn't disturbed by this. If you find yourself engaging in addictive behaviors or obsessions, note, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again, as a way to bring both mindfulness and gentleness to yourself in this process. The daughters of the Buddha are fearless. Being a wife, being a mother, these were my first teachers. Make all circumstances your teachers. Practice now, don't think you will do more later. If you are busy, then busyness is the meditation. If you are rushing to the office, then you should be mindful of rushing. What is your intention for any action, physical, verbal, or mental? The Buddha gave the importance to intention. Know your intention in every action. As if your eyes were closed, I meditate most of the time with my eyes open. I forget. A lot of folks meditate with their eyes closed. So as you open your eyes, right, remembering the gaze as connected to your body, and then orienting to your space. And then we'll orient again to each other. I just want to share. There she is. Dipa Ma. DipaMa.com has a great photo gallery. But yeah, look at her. I love her, and then she's got her altar in the background. There's a great photo of her doing laundry, like hanging clothes. Anyway, you can check that out for yourself and see all the pictures of Dipa Ma. Yes. So good to sit with you. I am having an in-person day-long retreat here at my home. I was like at my dojo, but it's in June. I'm just popping the date out now because if you're interested, I'm gonna need to know sooner rather than later because I have limited capacity. It's on June 5th. And it will be from 9 to 4, day-long retreat. So, yeah, if that sounds like something you feel called to really deepen your practice, we'll be having a day-long sit on that day. if you want to come. I'll be broadcasting it more broadly, but if you want to come, I'm letting you all know first. Let me know so I can save your spot. I don't know how much it is right now. I can't remember what we decided, but it's not that. I day-long retreats. I want to make it accessible for you to support your practice. Yeah, so let me know if you'd be interested in that. And as I said earlier, donations really make a difference. And I will not be here next week, but I will be here March 1st. March 1st. And then share this with people who, I would have loved to share Dipa Ma with like a lot more people. So like, yeah, and that's like a lot of that has to do with me, but you too, just kind of like, hey, you want to, join us, and people can get a taste of the Dharma, and it's for them. It's great. If not, that's great too, but everyone's welcome. So please just share the link so we can grow our community. And takeaways, you can pop into the chat. Candace, hi. I noticed your little good mornings. Yes, good. Yeah, just let me know what really landed for you in the chat if you feel called, and we can take ourselves off mute and just say our goodbyes. Yeah, working on unconditional ease. Contentment in simple things. I love hanging clothes too. It's a meditation. Yeah. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Marlene. Yeah, good. All right. Be well. I am teaching yoga this week as well. Wednesdays and Fridays, my usual classes. Fridays, we have a short sit. So there's another opportunity to sit with me on Fridays. You're welcome. Yeah. Beautiful reminders to keep it simple. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Marilyn. All right. Bye.